And we're back with today's episode, which is Season 2, Episode 8, The Mysterious Mare Duel. This is an episode about Rainbow Dash being exaggeratively egotistical, running around being a superhero, until finally the mysterious Mare Duel shows up and outshines her at every corner, until she finally finds out that the mysterious Mare Duel is actually on the main six, the end. I'm actually with Dream Whisperer. I don't really like this episode all that much. And the funny thing is, I should like this episode. It has very good animation, excellent general stylization, good references. You caught the Batman the Animated Series posters, right? And they literally use music that is stylized based off of the stylings of Tim Burton's Batman for the sequence when Rainbow Dash is chasing around all of the things. And there's generally good production values. But I just really didn't like the exaggeration effect, which we need to come up with a term for that, because I think that ruins the episode. But let's rewind a second. So at the beginning of the episode, we find out that Rainbow Dash has a freaking fan club. You know, that doesn't really surprise me, but why Rainbow Dash of all people? Do me a favor and remember that for later. Just hold on to that. Put a pin in that, and we'll come back to that. Because I have a thought about that. So, early on, if you're paying attention, Rainbow Dash does this thing where... I can see that, Sean. I mean, certainly, you know, the Shadow did inspire the current era of Batman in many ways. So Rainbow Dash saves the kid in the well. And everyone's like, yay! And you notice Rainbow Dash's response. What's with this crowd? It's not a big deal. And she actually blushes as she walks off. Then she saves the baby from tottering off the cliff. And she says, oh my God, there's something wrong with the baby. It wasn't cheering for me. And then it gets worse, and then it gets worse, and then it gets worse. Each scene, she pumps up the level of arrogance and braggartness by like a factor of 20. She goes from being totally acceptable to just ham-fistedly ridiculous in 3 scenes. But this brings me to something I gotta bring up. And I know this is a weird thing to bring up, but stuff like this kind of irritates me as a world builder. Because this is the opposite of world building. I know. It's a joke. And that's the excuse. It's a joke. But why is there just a path, like an actual path, leading down a cliff ramp, like an actual ramp, they show it several times, that just leads off into the forest? And apparently it's common enough that, you know, a baby stroller can fall down there, or an entire group of, you know, people on a cart, or whatever you want to call that. Also, apparently they have no idea how to make balloons happen without them plummeting. I'm curious how that happened. There's also the construction yard thing. Like, there's just crisis after crisis that is happening in this episode. And it makes me think, huh? Why is this happening? But this is the problem. If I was to sit down and try to have a serious conversation about this, because it's me and that's what I do for a living, the response I guarantee you I would be given is, it's a joke, Lore. Chill. I don't like that. I know that sounds strange, but I want you to picture, just do me a favor. Picture your favorite Star Trek show, okay? And picture that in one episode, whoever the captain is of that particular show starts to walk out and slams right into a door and then slips on a banana peel that's just in the middle of the corridor. And they're like, oh my God, that sure hurt. I sure hope that's not going to happen again. And then they just kind of like have a bucket fall on their head. And, you know, other slapstick humor things happen in Star Trek. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, MLP is in Star Trek. I kind of disagree. MLP has gone out of its way to establish itself as actually having a groundwork of decent world building and self-coherenceness. In fact, frankly, My Little Pony literally has better continuity than Star Trek does. And that's why this kind of slapstick humor that's basically just forget about it as an approach doesn't appeal to me. Because I think it's literally being deleterious to the rest of it. Now, Weods, you've said that twice. Would you like to explain that? Because I don't know what you mean by that. But either way, I look at this and I just say, this is No. You know, I don't know. If this was in Looney Tunes, I wouldn't question it, because Looney Tunes doesn't have world building. Looney Tunes isn't intended to be taken as a world of static cohesiveness and self-continuity. Looney Tunes is frickin' Looney Tunes. Yeah, even in this episode, they actually do have several things which make a degree of sense. Para exemple, they have an hydroelectric dam that provides the electricity for the town. Like, you noticed that, right? That actually makes sense. That even lines up with the rest of the show. Perfect. I'm with it. Rainbow Dash being able to break the dam with her hoof doesn't really, which gets my point across. Like a wave? I could see that, Weouds, especially if the pattern was off. I keep talking about the harmonic pattern of, the universe of MLP, but I mean, that is an ideal. As many, 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 many episodes show, the world isn't always in harmony with that pattern, and that leads to problems. So I could see that. If we're trying to headcanon this away, that's a good way to do that. I'm kind of with that. But I do hope you at least understand why I look at this and I just go. Then there's the second reason I don't like this episode. Let's just get this right out of the way. Rainbow Dash is Flanderized like crazy in this episode. As I already said, she goes from being totally acceptable to being overbearingly ridiculous in literally 3 scenes. 3 jump cuts. I'm fine, I'm horrible, I'm awful, bam, bam, bam. I hate that. And it's something My Little Pony unfortunately does a lot of. I think this is the first real time we've seen this, but this is something that's going to come up a lot, where a character is Flanderized and exaggerated to the point where, it defies reason, basically. And then, oh no, I just kidding. And then they just revert back. Probably my favorite example of that, which pisses me off, is actually an episode that otherwise I enjoy, which I have to look up because I don't know the name of it. It's the one with Trixie and Starlight Glimmer. It's the episode where Starlight Glimmer's... It's apparently called All Bottled Up. I found it. The episode All Bottled Up is an episode that I want to like that I don't because of this Flanderization problem. If you know the episode I'm talking about. The other thing here, I've actually looked into this because I'm a geek and it's my job. Apparently this kind of thing is semi-common in television in order to make it so obvious that stupid people can catch on to it. And I know that sounds derogatory, and that's because it frickin' is. But I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not joking. You can look this up. There's a term for it, and I forget what it is, but it's basically bearing it down to lower denominators. To make the same general point, but to make sure that people can get it much quicker and easier. So rather than having any nuance or subtlety, they just crank it up to 11 and then crank it back to reasonability. Just to make sure that you don't miss that gear shift in the middle. This is really common, and this is not just a thing with animated. A lot of television has this exact same problem. Anybody who ever watched Heroes probably knows what I'm talking about. But you get the idea. Anyway, sorry, I'm just... Rant. Moving on. So... what do we got here? The Mare dubs the Mare de well, woo. Do you notice, this is actually a nice little subtlety bit. Do you notice that when the first Mare de well goes and saves I think it was the hot air balloon that was plummeting, the woman from that, Twilight is the one who off camera says, "Look, that pony came out of nowhere." You can hear it's her voice. And then the camera cuts over and Twilight's grinning just a little bit. See, little details and subtleties like that I enjoy. It's not like this show can't do that, It's a nice little touch. Anyways. And so the next one we see is the Applejack Mare de well, who is stronger than Rainbow Dash, which makes sense. We know super strength is a thing for Earth ponies, and we know Applejack in general is exceptionally strong for an Earth pony, so sure, I'm with that. And then Pinkie Pie leads them through the construction yard because she has Pinkie sense, which again makes sense and actually probably qualifies as a continuity counter if we're being honest with ourselves. go ahead and do that really quick. Well, no, I'll hold off on that because I've got another thing to do. So all that makes perfect sense. Then she plugs the dam, which breaks the dam, which is incredibly stupid. That then leads to Twilight. Now, Twilight does something that... I've actually talked about this before. Twilight is surprisingly good at magic. She manages to grab all of these rocks and all these bits of the dam and reposition them, put them right there. And that is implying both scale and precision. This is not the first time we've seen Twilight do that level of magic. This isn't even the second time we've seen Twilight do that level of magic. That makes sense. You'll notice how parts of this actually fit perfectly with the establishment of the show, which again makes the Looney Tunes aspect just more aggravating to me. We also know that magic is color-coded, so we know that's Twilight. So, I mean, duh, right? I will admit, when I first saw this, I just assumed it was Twilight. I admittedly forgot the fact that Twilight... It's not surprising. I admittedly forgot the fact that Twilight was, visible on screen, while Mare was also visible on screen earlier, so I'm just an idiot on that one. Anyway, so then she gets the wings. I was looking this up a little bit, but I didn't have a chance to look it up in full. I don't think the term alicorn has actually been introduced yet. And to my knowledge, as of this point in the show, we only have 2 examples of alicorns. The 2 sisters. And no, I haven't, Weads. Do you have an example? Yeah, we will see more alicorns in the future. I think 8 total or something like that. But and that's right, with the alicorn amulet. It's the first time they actually comment on that. If memory serves, alicorn was actually a fan term that they then adopted or something like that. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that. Anyways... So, at this point, the show is positing that the Mare-do-well is an alicorn. That's pretty much officially the moment you're like, okay, it's multiple people. At least that's what first occurred to me. I don't know what other people saw when they said that. Saw that. So then the main 6 prod Rainbow Dash pretty hard because they're trying to teach her a lesson. And Rainbow Dash complains about everything being normal. Ha. Granny Smith gets a brief cameo. There's a nice little bit. Oh, don't worry, I will open that can of peanut butter. Now, the reason I like this is threefold. First of all, the woman who plays the random woman does an excellent job of playing her, and she's actually Pinkie Pie's singing actress. Second reason I like it is because the fact that if you... I've actually seen people try to open peanut butter jars that are stuck with their teeth. Don't do that. Now, you might think, oh, well, wait, they show... They show the fact that she opens it with her teeth. Yeah, they show it in a negative light. And they show that it doesn't work. They then immediately show the random pony... Tap it on the thing, tap it on the counter, and then open it with no problems, which is actually a legitimate method of opening jars that are stuck. Once again, I have to give small praise for actually getting across tiny little lessons that kids can, impressionable kids can look at and get something practical out of, because that's actually a decent lesson to be given. Hot water, yeah. You could also do the thing with the knife. Tap the edge like that. There are methods. Don't use your teeth. Don't use your teeth. And then she does the only thing she possibly can. She mows the grass. Dramatic music. This is the official moment where you can tell that she is completely reaching. This then leads to probably the only part of the scene that I like. How can everyone forget about me so easily? Have I changed? And then she immediately has to pep talk herself up by insisting to herself that she is in fact awesome. But then the camera zooms out, very good camera shot, shows her very much in the distance with lots of empty space around her. And then she says, but why am I all alone? I hate being all alone. That's a good moment, in my opinion. And that is good stuff for Rainbow Dash, because... ignoring the obvious fact that, she's pulling the Seymour thing, Skinner, this is the self-esteem thing. I've actually talked about this before. Rainbow Dash actually has low self-esteem. That's why she constantly praises herself and pushes herself up as a counter effect to that. I actually know people personally like that, and I kind of sympathize with it as long as it Doesn't go overboard, which is kind of the big thing. This, of course, then leads to Scootaloo showing up, who probably should... I was actually thinking Scootaloo would stay. Like, she'd be the one person who's still a fan of Rainbow Dash. But no, she does the expected thing, and she's like, hey, we're coming to a thing. This is when the Batman, the animated series thing, comes in as well. So they unmask her. There's actually a really cool chase sequence during the music. And then they unmask her. Pinky, Twilight, AJ. Rarity never donned the costume, of course. That was getting all that work. But she did design the outfits. Funny fact, in a future episode, Rarity will take to her superpowers better than anyone else. Which makes perfect sense to me, in a weird way. So this leads to the message. It's okay to be good at things. It's okay to excel at things. What is not okay is to be a braggart about it, to let it go to your head, and to be an arrogant snot. What is not okay is trying to put down other people just because they might be better at you than something. Those are good lessons. It's part of why this episode pisses me off so much, because that's a legitimately good lesson to get across. I know adults who need that lesson. Never mind kids. I mean, admittedly, I can't think of anything I'm actually good at in real life. But if I was really good at something in real life, there's nothing wrong with that. With being happy about being good at something. With being proud of being good at something. The problem is when you take it way to the overboard, which is part of why I don't like this episode. Which brings me to another point. I could be wrong, but I feel like we've already had this lesson. Ghostbusters? Trixie? You remember that? Like, that was the whole point of that episode, at least in terms of the morale and the message was, you know, oh, I'm really good at magic, but I don't want to be a braggart, right? I mentioned the fan club thing. Who do you want to bet Rainbow Dash started that fan club, or at least encouraged it? We know that she hangs out around the fan club. She was there right outside the window and being like, super amazingly awesome, you know, that whole thing. And again, Rainbow Dash, low self-esteem. What do you want to bet? Really, this song again? Didn't we just hear this song? Rainbow Dash. What do you want to bet she is actually the one who pushed for the idea of the fan club? Yeah, her parents have a fan club to her, which ironically she doesn't like. I could see Scootaloo doing it on her own. What I don't understand is why so many damn people are a fan of Rainbow Dash. Why the fan club is that large. I mean, I guess by this point in history, Rainbow Dash has helped save the world twice. And a number that's going to be going up in the future. But why Rainbow Dash, of all people? This is one of the reasons why I think Rainbow Dash is, for lack of a better way to put it, fanning the flames. And I stand by that theory, personally. I absolutely think Scootaloo did it, but I also think Rainbow Dash has been feeding the idea and trying to get more people interested in it. My opinion. Oh yeah, by the way, this episode absolutely qualifies as a wah-wah. In fact, this episode is like 3 wah-wahs in a row if you're paying attention. First we have the Pinkie Pie moment. And then we have the, oh no, I'll totally do it for you moment. And then we have the, oh my gosh, it's a ghost moment. Yeah, no, that totally qualifies as a wah-wah. So unfortunately, we have to push that one up. And this one. There we go. I mean, holy crap. I mean, I didn't like it. Baron, like I said, episodes like this are things I do not care about this show. Because, again, the exaggeration thing, more than anything else, that's what pisses me off. Exaggerating a character trait to the point of ridiculousness. Oh no, the continuity counter was specifically for the Pinkie sense. With the way they use it. They even have a thing where she's like, and shoves her out of the way, and then the pot falls. That totally counts. The Mare do well effect. I don't know what we could call it, though. Well, I've got it. We'll call it the Rainbow Dash effect. But, you know, it's a form of flanderization, but it's a specific implementation of flanderization. Because the whole point, again, is to be really obvious and exaggerative about something so that they can then go back to normal. And yes, this would be a syndrome. That's true. Yeah, Pinkie Pie tends to get flanderized like crazy, too. Speaking of people being flanderized, next week's episode will be Sweet and Elite. And then we'll have Secret of My Excess. At least that one, it's an in-universe thing rather than a writing thing. So, I don't know. I will go ahead and chop off.